All right. Hey Cliff. Okay, I'm almost positive, like almost positive, that I have the kinks all worked out. So let's see. Get rid of that, get rid of that, get rid of that. Okay, so far, Restream.io is that their chat is working thus far. Except for I haven't had anyone try to say anything to me on YouTube, and I was hoping that that will have been fixed. So let me see. So I should be live right now, and I am. Sweet. Okay. And I am. Oop, gotta turn that down. Okay. Yay for me being live on YouTube. Okay. Okay. Fabulous. Okay. Not that I need this. Gee whiz. Okay. Okay. Hey Rob, what's going on? That's what I wanted to do. No. Crap. All right. Okay. You have a special someone? That's so exciting. Are they going to join us tonight? Come on. I did that. Okay. Can you see the type font well enough? Because it looks like it's coming across as fairly readable right now from what I'm looking at. So if it's not, let me know. I'll probably put it in bold or something. All right. So tonight, still working on that latest edit of Dark Mountain. Tonight we're gonna be doing some editing to include more disability themes. All right, fabulous. Because that was kind of the whole point of me starting to write the book in the first place, was that you know, what would it look like? What would Jane Eyre look like if she was disabled instead of a lower class than Mr. Rochester? And of course, that really lends itself to today because there is still that stigma that um, you know, it's ableism. And if anyone's watching and they don't know what the term ableism means, it means a person who is, I hate to use the term prejudice because in a lot of cases, ableism doesn't have anything to do with a person outright hating people with disabilities. It's more the willful ignorance. Like, it's not their problem, so it's not a problem, right? And so that to me is a better definition of what ableism is. So yeah. Anyway, so one of my biggest problems that when I finished this last half of the novel a few days ago, I think it was like Saturday or Sunday, my biggest beef was that that the character Matt, who is the medical doctor that saves Hannah's life, he started to have really serious perfect boyfriend syndrome, which is not what you want because number one, the reader's like, yeah, right, for one. And two, there is no such thing as a perfect boyfriend. I mean, you can have a guy that's, you know, or a girl that's totally sweet, does everything that, you know, you ever wanted in a person, and then all of a sudden, and then they do something really stupid. And that's just the way life is. And so he started being, you know, just uber supportive and lifting up her self-esteem all the time and just, you know, I guess if I was writing like super cheesy romance, that might work still, but for me, there's just that certain degree of, yeah, right, about it. So, what I've decided to do, and so I was struggling so hard. I'm like, how can I make him less perfect without making him be a total scumbag or being mentally abusive or emotionally abusive to Hannah? He's just a nice guy that doesn't get it. And so what I ended up coming up with actually was that uh, he has it in his head. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the character, Matt is the surgeon, and he saves her life, and then he becomes. Oh, okay, cool. That's awesome. I bet you're excited. Matt's a surgeon, not because, like, there's lots of reasons people become surgeons, but Matt really gets off on saving people. That's like his big thing. So I call him my white knight. He likes to go in, he likes to rescue the damsel in distress, you know, and that's all fine and well, maybe, but in when you're transferring that kind of attitude from the, you know, he could be the white knight for an able-bodied chick and she'd probably just find it adorable. But in the case of someone with a disability, and in particular myself, one of the things that drives me absolutely bananas, like bananas, is when somebody is overly helpful. Like, I don't mind being helped, but usually I like to be asked first so that I have the choice as to whether or not I feel I need the help. But people in their rush to be awesome, like their rush to be helpful, or, oh, this poor little crippled person needs help. And that's great. But you know what? I can do it myself. Because if I couldn't, then I probably would not be at a store by myself, because I drove myself there. you know, and if I really needed help into my car, then I probably wouldn't be at the store either, because then I wouldn't be able to get myself in. So anyway, going back to the whole point is that I came up with the idea that Matt is just going to be Mr. Helpful, and it is going to drive Hannah nuts, because it was perfect also because it was something you wouldn't break up with someone over. You wouldn't be like, stop helping me, and then do a hair flip and break up with them. It's just one of those things that if you're already sort of in doubt about how you actually feel about that person, then that's just one thing that just, it drives you nuts, So anyway, so we are going to be going through these chapters and adding some things that are very subtle, and because here's the other thing too, and it was something that when my husband and I were first married, I kind of had to train him out of trying to do stuff for me, or at the very most asking me if I needed help and then helping. And I think that is a struggle that a person with a disability might run up against when they are in a relationship with an able-bodied person. I think if if I was to date somebody and they were being overly helpful, I think I'd be a little more forgiving of them, because they don't know usually. And so, but after a while, after you've been in that relationship for a while, and they know perfectly well how you can do it on your own, and then they continue to help, then it's sort of like, all right, dude, no more of this. So anyway, so we're in chapter 38. This is Hannah has come back from the hospital. She's trying to put her life back together after she's left David. And let's see. So then we're going to start with the scene where she goes for her last appointment with Matt, because they always like to do that 6-week post whatever, like the follow-up visit, just to make sure everything's going good and stuff. And so this is the last visit, and he just, backstory is, he's very excited for this to be the last visit, because while she was in the hospital, he had pretty much unlimited access to her, and he enjoyed being around her. But there was that really, really fine line between, being attracted to somebody and then having them be your patient also. And that was, he didn't want to have to cross that line. So let's see. All right. So we got past, she's healing at Dan and Marion's, and then actually this scene I may not fix anything, because there's really not a place for him to be overly helpful other than opening the door, and that's not really an overly helpful thing, that's just a polite, courteous thing. But I think in the next scene there will be actually that opportunity to do that, because let's see, he's helping her move into. So basically what happens is, after she has this last visit, or while she's at this last visit with Matt, he says, well, my sister Amber owns her own condo, and she generally likes to have a roommate, but she hasn't had one in a while, and she wanted to know if you wanted to move in with her, because obviously you'll need a place to live, and if you don't want to live with your foster parents anymore. So she agrees, and then Amber also helps her find a job. Um, and at this really cool high school, well, actually it's actually K through 12, I think. There's uh, a charter school. That's what I was trying to think of. There's a charter school in Utah called Spectrum Academy, and it's actually a school designed for kids with autism, on the autism spectrum. And it's specifically designed for their needs, whether that be sensory, whether it be a learning disability, if it's, and so they keep the class sizes really super small and on purpose. And so it's kind of, it's kind of sixes as to whether or not you can get your kid into it. But it's a really cool facility. And I'm like, that would have been where Hannah would have wanted to do her student teaching hours, because that way she was like in the thick of teaching kids on this, with special needs, so that when she went out into the wider world, she'd be able to handle it. Let's see. So on top of that, we get a little hint that he is actually interested in her, because most doctors have two sets of cards, business cards. They have their office card with the office number on it, so you can call and make appointments, and sometimes they have like the reminder of the next appointment on the back. But then they also have their professional card, which is usually the courtesy card that they give out to like other doctors or other medical professionals, so they can reach the doctor directly. And that is the card he gives Hannah. So she's like, she's like, oh man, he actually gave me his phone number. And then, let's see. So now she knows that there's, something more going on there. And if I will check every once in a while to make sure that the Restream.io chat is working, but if I'm not responding to you, it's because I can't see it. So just be patient. I'll go through and check every once in a while for the chat, because this stuff is still a little wonky. So, for example, what I was talking about was, okay, so he showed me out of his office, and this is the other thing. Doctors don't generally walk their patients out the door most of the time. Just FYI. He showed me out of his offices, and I waited for the elevator. I looked over. He was just retreating into the office, and I waved at him. I watched him walk away confused. He looked to be around David's age. What the hell? Did I have older guy bait tattooed on my forehead or something? Even if there was a ghost of a chance I was interested in him, my head was a mess, and I wasn't ready to do anything with anyone right now until I figured out what I was going to do. And so then the only thing that I resolved to do was to contact Amber. It made sense, despite a little voice in the back of my gut that said it might complicate things rather than make them better. Then again, maybe because of all the things that had happened to me in the last month, I was just reading into the situation much more than necessary. It would be flattering to think, hopping out of one relationship with broody rich guy, I'd be hopping into something with a guy that looked like he should be modeling for Calvin Klein and not making patient rounds. I needed to snap out of it. I needed a job. I needed something to distract me from all the turmoil that still screwed my brain up. I pulled out my cell phone and called Amber. So really not a whole lot in there. other than me setting up the relationship between Matt and her. But let's see. Let's do this. No. Piece of shoo. There we go. Chapter 39. And while I'm doing this, if you're curious, the program I'm using is called Scrivener, and it's amazing. It's an amazing program for organizing writing. And there's like a billion other things it can do. Like you can put like metadata, like search functions, so that like if you have a certain keyword that you want to use for certain parts, then you could set that up. And I'm just like, I just want the little folders to go in the folders. All right, let's see. Let's go to 18. All right. Let's go down to all right, here's a good spot. So we spent the next little while putting the boxes in the empty room with just enough room for my bed when it came. I was going through my book collection when Matt came in the room. So here we can insert something like she had been holding a stack of books in her lap or had been piling them up, and he picks them up out of her lap and starts putting them away, which, you know, you think about it, they're like, what's wrong with that? Hi, Mez. I'm actually working on, this is a book that I'm working towards getting published. It's a rewrite of Jane Eyre in modern times, so it's contemporary, and the lead, the main character, Hannah, is a girl that's not only a paraplegic, but she is also a foster child because the accident that put her in the wheelchair also killed her family. And then she gets her very first job out of college with a rich man named David, who has an autistic adopted daughter that, because of, it's a long explanation, but essentially because of her sensory and she doesn't do well in crowds and with new people, she was having a hard time in regular school, and so he decided to get like a private teacher for her until she could be taught how to manage those, you know, her different challenges. So if you have any questions, seriously, I could sit here and blab a million times, like for hours. You can ask Rob and Avatar. But if you have any questions, let me know. Yeah, seriously. I mean, and I think it's because, you know, there's a good framework for, there are certain things that are universal, and having someone who is not in the same class, if you will, because technically there's really not that class caste that there was in England in the 1800s anymore, but there are certain yeses and nos. And being a paraplegic myself, it's very obvious that people get freaky about the idea of people with people with disabilities wanting something more than spending their life alone. Maybe they want a family, maybe they want to be in a relationship. Don't get me started on disability sexuality, because then I'd really be freaking you out. Although we do address that just a teeny bit, because Hannah has relations, if you will, with both Matt and David. And that was actually the other thing from last week that I had been debating as to whether or not I would have Hannah sleep with Matt, despite the fact that her head was so messed up from their breakup. But But then I decided, yeah, she's going to. Because number one, um, yes, yep, for reals. And it's more of how society views not just disability, but rich versus poor, um, foster versus, biological families, those sorts of things. Um, so let's see, where was I going to go with that? Anyway, so now we're in the part where she's moving with Matt. Matt's a doctor because I have a rule, and I told my friends this because I have some books on Wattpad called Sweetwater and then Ophelia. But Sweetwater, the main character, is also a paraplegic. And what I told my friend was the reason I wrote Sweetwater is because I was watching this show on, I think it was like a bio on John Waters. I'm not a huge fan of his, but he is actually pretty funny. And his comment was the reason he wrote, oh my gosh, now I'm going to forget, Hairspray. No. Yes, Hairspray. The reason he wrote Hairspray, yes. Very much the socio-political. And I have a funny story about that I'll tell you in just a second. But anyway, John Waters said that he wrote Hairspray because he wanted to read a story about where the fat girl wins. And I'm like, that is the most genius thing I've ever heard in my life. It's like, why can't the fat girl win? You know? And so at the same time, why can't the crippled girl win? Why can't she have all the beautiful guys? Why does it always have to be the leggy blonde, right? So anyway, I am a huge fan of Clive Stanton, who played Rollo in Vikings. And it's actually funny, I'm really not a fan of Vikings, like some of his other stuff, but just not Vikings. Anyway, I had made a comment on his Instagram account, and some other lady, said, "Oh, what's your book about?" And so I was telling her, and she was like, we start going back and forth. Well, how are you dealing with the feminist overtones in the book? And I'm like, well, of course, I'm not going to write a book where she just lets things happen to her. She makes decisions and then she has to live with those decisions. But she was really not happy with me because I had her getting with David at the end. She wanted Hannah to ride off in the sunset by herself. And I'm like, yeah, I suppose she could do that. But the whole point of the story is that where does the line between forgiveness and being taken advantage of, where is that line? And to me, that's really kind of like, at least with David's storyline part, so most of the first half of the novel, David, we have to see why David would do the things he did. In this case, David's first wife, he was still married to her because she was a junkie. And so it was easier for him to stay married to her so that he could get her into rehab, he could get her out of jail, all the things he was trying to make sure that she didn't, end up in these horrible places, but he didn't want to be married to her anymore. And so he basically thought to himself, well, since I'm never getting married again, because marriage is such a horrible thing, because his first marriage was horrible, his parents' marriage was horrible. He's like, I'm never getting married, so I might as well just stay married to her. Well, then by the time he realizes he's fallen in love with Anna, we'll just say the shit starts to get real. And so when he goes to try to divorce his first wife, her family fights back. So anyway, coming back to Matt. Matt the doctor, Matt who looks like a Calvin Klein model because, like I said, the cripple girl wins in my stories. What we're doing now is we're adding in pieces of very subtle ableist themes with Matt. And his biggest problem is he wants to be helpful all the time. And that is okay, but it's not at the same time. Oh, let's see. Hang on one second. All right. Just had to make sure we didn't have anybody in YouTube chat, which I don't think I do. All right. So let's see. We are going to just insert a little piece right here. All right. Just moving it over just a teens. Okay. Because I'm like total ghetto setup here, because for some reason neither regular OBS or Streamlabs OBS recognizes Scrivener as a program on my computer for whatever reason. So I kind of have to like do this like really cheap garbage, pointing the camera at the computer screen in order to do this. So let's see, Matt came in my room. I had just and please don't criticize my grammar. I'm not totally horrible, but I am the worst for passive voice. That gets fixed later. I just want to get it down. Okay, let's see. So let's see. I had just reached up. First one on my shelf. Let's see. Actually, I'm going to change that to and. I don't know about that. Okay, I still don't like this sentence. Okay. You'll notice I backspace a lot too. Oh, funniest thing. A while ago, I was, so I'm old, and I'll just say it. I am. And so when I was in high school and junior high and high school taking keyboarding classes, we're still talking about on electronic typewriters. You didn't get, the teachers were the only ones that had computers, and even then they barely used those. And so so part of the thing with being on actual typewriters was that you always double spaced after a period, because that's the way it was. And this one girl on Wattpad, she was mad because I kind of was really harsh a little bit on her book, but it was because each of her chapters was like 7,000 words long, and she described everything, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. But you know what? We're all in our own path. Some of us are up here, some of us are back here. There's people way better than me, and I'm better than some. But anyway, she got in a snit because I was making a suggestion that she needed to cut out quite a bit from some of her novel, and so then that was her only complaint about Sweetwater. Well, your grammar's terrible. You double space after each period. I'm like, yeah, because I'm old. All right, let's see. La la la. Okay, where am I? Okay, I had just reached up to place the first one on my shelf. Matt picked up the pile and put them away for me. Okay, she's not going to make a comment about that yet, because like I said, you tend to be a little more patient with people at first because they don't know any better. And then we're going to change this to pulling out my worn out copy. And then he recites that sonnet, and we're going to make sure that that looks appropriate. Okay. Now, y'all are going to tell me if you can't see anything, or if you're having a hard time reading it, because just let me know. All right, so he talks about his undergrad classes. She's teasing him about his beauty, which he finds annoying, actually. She's like, not that you'd have problems with girls anyway. Half the nurses pass out when you walk through the hall. That's not true, Matt said. I gave him a look. Honestly, I never noticed. Wait, are you gay? He looked shocked for a moment before breaking out into a loud laugh. No, I'm not gay. I just haven't found someone not worth noticing yet, I guess. So not gay, just picky, I said. He shrugged. I think my mother would agree with you. She's excited to meet you. So then mother's house is going to be the first hint. I already had a little piece already in there. So we're going to go to the dinner at mom's house. Oh my goodness, really? Where'd it go? All right, there we go. Dinner at the St. John's. All right, the passage as it is now is okay. All right, we're going to change the passage as it reads right now is Matt insists on driving. Most control freaks do, basically. Let's see. I've got plenty of room, Matt said. I drive an SUV. It wasn't worth arguing over, so I went along with it. He opened the passenger side door for me. Should I put in that section, because I understand why she might be not excited to drive in an SUV, but I'm thinking maybe you guys might not understand why. Can anyone guess why I might not want to get into an SUV? Anyone? Bueller? Let me actually go here, make sure we got. Want to get into. Oh, no, you don't. Nope. Bueller? Let me actually go. Sorry, I just make that. All right. Let's see. Oh, no, you don't. Nope. I will be typing it in case you guys don't feel like answering, which is fine. All right. All right. Let's see. No, you don't. Nope. I will be typing it in case you guys don't feel like answering, which is fine. All right. Make the lift, but it would be sketchy. I would make the needed lift, but it would be on my rear end of my presence. Okay, so the problem is Okay, so for one, Hannah is a, I think it was either her a T12. Okay, so the problem is the height of her injury puts her paralysis at below her belly button, and I can't remember what injury level on the spine that is. And there is no, like, she's got some little bits of feeling, but for the most part, she's pretty much numb from the belly button down. So when you're transferring from your wheelchair to another seat, a lot of times people will gauge that they've, you can tell if you've got feeling in your lower limbs, you can tell if you're sitting on the seat or not. But if you can't, then you run the risk of your butt cheek not quite making it onto the seat and then you taking a tumble, which is, yeah, for anybody that's horrible, but even more so if you're, trying to prove to people that you're independent and you do something like that. So the height difference between your chair and the seat is important, which is why most people that I know that drive cars usually tend to pick like sedans and low-lying things. And so to go from your chair to the SUV, it's not even something Matt thinks about, because it doesn't occur to him to have to think about it, for one. And so she's sitting there in her brain going, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And then she goes with the, we'll do it. Doesn't occur to him to have to think about it, for one. Plus, it's never a good thing to fall like that, especially from that height, because let's say, for example, you scraped your leg up, like you slam your leg up against your feet, whatever that's called, feet plate, and you scratch yourself, and then you don't realize that you've got a scratch there, and it gets infected, then you don't even know that you're infected because you can't feel it until somebody notices. Or if you break something, you're not going to know you broke anything because you can't feel it. Anyway, so that's the first part. So let's see, we're going to put, or if you break something, you're not going to know you broke anything because you can't feel it. Anyway, so that's the get rid of this sentence and say, let's see, we're going to put, or if you break something, you're not going to know you broke anything. Actually, we're going to put this sentence up here. Get rid of this sentence and say, we're going to put this sentence up here. Okay, so not wanting, and this is a big thing that I would do a lot when I was younger, not wanting to make a fuss. With it. Okay, so not wanting, and this is a big thing that I would do a lot when I was younger. And then we're going to get rid of this. Okay, so we're going to get rid of all of that. We're going to say instead, and this is a big thing that I would do a lot when I was younger. We're going to get rid of this. No, I don't want to get rid of all of that. I just realized. We're going to say instead, so bent over to pick me up out of my wheelchair. Alright, so this is her gritting her teeth now to pick me up out of my wheelchair. And whether or not she does actually have it or not is immaterial. So that she's saying, Back off, dude. Okay, so Matt, thanks, but I've got it. I said as I use the doors, armrest and passenger side seat as leverage to lift myself up. She does actually have it or not is immaterial. That she's saying, back off, dude. Okay, let's see. So he nodded, but I've got it. Looking just a bit sheepish. Armrest and passenger side seat as leverage to lift myself up. She does actually have it or not is immaterial. Okay. Okay, now we can take that out. Just a bit sheepish. I don't know. Should I put in a funny part where he tries to take her wheelchair apart? Because that's always fun to watch. Somebody who's never dealt with a rigid framed manual wheelchair and try to tell them how to figure out trying to get into the car. Because that's always fun to watch. Somebody who's never I've got to do it. Dealt with except for okay. So here's the deal though is like if he's a medical doctor, I guess it because there's a huge difference, like a huge difference between except for okay, so between one of those clunky hospital wheelchairs that you see people being pushed out of the hospital with, and what I ride around in. My chair looks a lot different. It's a lot more streamlined and not as clunky, I guess you could say. So let's see. People being pushed out of the hospital with, and what I ride around in. My chair looks is already huge, but streamlined and not as clunky, I guess you could say. So let's see. People being pushed out of the hospital with, and what I ride around in. My chair looks is already delay echo. Did that fix the echo? It might. Let me know. Let's see. Okay, I'm totally gonna do a dude thing, and if there's dudes, I know I have 2 dudes at least in my chat channel. I have to do it just because I think it's funny. Okay, let me know if it is. I think that's what the problem was, is that I had the desktop audio going, and we don't need desktop audio right now. Okay, so do you, and if it's not, then we'll figure it out. Actually, I'm gonna do this. Okay, great. And this is the dude part. Do you need help to get that in? Nope, I got it. I'm cool. Just ask. Oh, I still have to do this. Okay, the funniest thing, well, it's actually not really funny because it actually can hurt, is people when they see a wheelchair, they'll reach down and the first thing they do, I kid you not, every single time, even my husband, the first time he lifted my wheelchair into his truck, he grabbed the big wheels, and I don't usually put the brakes on my wheelchair. So when he grabbed those big wheels, there was nothing stopping the main body of my wheelchair, and it goes, so here's the wheels right here, and here's the seat and the little feety part right here. This thing goes boonk because it's heavier in the front than in the back, and people will take out their shins that way. It's funny, not funny, that kind. So I have to put that in there. That would actually be really funny. So Amber and I both turned around to watch him attempt it. Picked up my wheelchair from by the large wheels. And of course, I'm assuming that you'll tell me if I'm the only one that thinks that'll be funny. Because things that I might think are funny, you guys would be like, what? Why does she think that's funny? All right, let's see. Picked up my wheelchair by the large wheels and the seat immediately swung down. His face reddened with the effort of not groaning out loud in pain. Okay, let's see. Doo-doo-doo. Let's see, he hatch. What the heck? I don't know, this may be getting too long for the scene that I really am trying to tell, but we'll go with it. When he tried to close the door, close the hatch, the wheelchair was too wide. So I snorted even though I was trying really hard not to laugh at him. Okay. Actually, it's not even though. I snorted effort of not laughing at him. Okay. You see the little button in the middle of the big wheels? Push that in and pull the wheels off. Then you can sit the chair part in the back seat with Amber and put the wheels in the back. The look of exasperation on his face was priceless. Oh, I'm a crappy speller too, just FYI. Okay. Okay, where are we going? Okay, so where does your mom live? I asked when he finally sat in the driver's seat. South Jordan, she just bought a house, la da da. So now she's having a little bit of a, I'll call it a romantic panic attack because he does something that reminds her of David. Okay, so the next part that we need to look at is they pulled up to a very, we, not they. Where did that come from? We pulled up to a very large but not massive home. A billowing wreath adorned the front door. Oh, that's right, Matt said. I completely forgot her entrance isn't wheelchair friendly. Looks like it'd be easy for you to push me from behind up those 2 little steps, I said, unless I'm too heavy for you. I guess we'll see, huh? He said. Amber, how about you take her wheelchair up first, and I'll just carry her up? Yeah, he didn't ask. Before I could really protest, Matt had scooped me up as Amber grabbed my wheelchair and carried it inside. Okay. Leaning against him was like leaning against a rock wall. So he was cut and beautiful. Fantastic. Alright. Actually, that one's okay. We're getting the hint that Matt's got a little crush. And that she's like, oh, don't have a crush on me. Okay, so she has another emotional panic attack, a romantic panic attack. Okay, we're gonna go through all that. Okay, so we're talking about how she likes living with Amber because Amber is not a predatory, competitive female. And yes, they exist. They drive me absolutely nuts. And I'm going to read you this next part because I'm me and I think some of my writing is super funny. So, you know, that's just how I am. Okay, so the next time I saw him, I was determined that I give him my phone number. And this is Amber talking. Amber was saying from the kitchen. But when I got there, all the cycling machines were busy and he was nowhere to be seen. Who is this again? I asked, semi-distracted from my bedroom. The bed had finally come along with the bookshelves and dresser. It had taken me those weeks to finish putting all my books up, even with Matt's help. I had been putting away the last... Hold, please. Getting a message. I am not seeing your messages. Just go to Facebook. Wow, you're hearing all of that from... Alright, well, now I can see you. But Yeah, Cliff, it's not transferring Facebook chat over, and it should be. Let me check something real quick. Sorry, you're gonna have to look at me mess with my thing. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. Oh, really? So if yes, he is. If he, oh, but he can't see Facebook chat, so he can only see the Twitch chat. Whatevs. YouTube apparently they will only send the video. They won't allow me to see the chat. All right. Let's see. Yeah, there's not a TV playing in the background. I don't know what you're talking about, lady. My sister is in on Facebook watching, but the chat is not transferring from Facebook to the Restream IO chat box. And that's because apparently you can't, which is dumb, but whatever. Okay. All right. So, all right. Doo-doo-doo. I've been putting away the last few books. When Amber had gotten home from the fitness center, Clinton, she said, remember the cute redhead that I kept running into on the treadmills? Oh, right, I said. Don't tell me you had to chase him down because he was on the running track. No, I found him in the pool, Amber said. And let me tell you, did I get an eyeful? She whistled. You remember I'm still sitting here, right? Matt's voice came from the couch. And, Amber said, well, you can I am all for chatting. Do you remember my friend Tiffany? Um, she was in chat last week, and she was like, I'm sorry I'm bugging you," and I'm like, "No, you're not. This is the whole point of this shebang is to get this stuff done while chatting with people, so I can be somewhat social." Okay. So yeah, she was in last week. Her and Melissa both were in there. I was like, "Yay, that's so cool." I don't know why it's being stupid. Excuse me for just a moment while I fix this crap. Oh, goodness. I know. Well, and hopefully you are too. You should not be going out and about. Okay. I know. It's actually, I think it's been a solid 10 years since I've run into her. Yeah, don't worry. The only people that can see my Facebook live is people that I am friends with. So there shouldn't be a need to moderate at all on Facebook. So that's totally fine. All right. I don't even think she can see what you're saying, but maybe she can because of the. No, she can't. Never mind. All right. So I'll be chatting back and forth, and if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. Okay. Hey, Sue. Okay, so let's see. So you remember I'm still here, right? Matt's voice came from the couch. And, Amber said. Just, no, he said. Anyway, she said, giving the couch a hard look, I finally found him, and as he was going into the locker rooms and gave him the piece of paper, and he said he'd call me. Can I change the channel now? Matt said. No, both Amber and I said together. This is my favorite one. They're watching Hallmark movies, by the way. That's what you've been saying every time we watch something, he said, groaning. First, it was Dean and Sam, then it was Charming and Hook, and then Matthew and Tom. I can't keep up with all. Oops. With all these storyline, I can't keep all these. Oh, that's what I was trying to say. Durr. I can't keep all these storylines straight. Well, I guess that's not really the point since they all seem to meld together after the first few episodes. I know you're not going to be able to see Cliff because he's in Twitch. Let's see. Alrighty. I guess that funny part was somewhere else, wasn't it? Oh no, he's like, Amber plopped herself down in the armchair near the television with her bottle of water. Matt had stretched himself over the couch as we watched a cheesy Christmas romance on Hallmark. I tapped his foot. May I said with a grin. Oh, sure, he said, sitting up. I was just about to fall asleep from all the doe eyes and fake misunderstandings. Amy says hi, Cliff. Um, Alright, this part is not. He says hello back. Oops. Do-do-do. Sorry, I know this is me formatting my book is so terribly boring. Yeah, well, on Hallmark they do, you know. It's sort of like there's. I've actually been binge watching them lately. It's kind of funny, but um. All right, so ask her out. That is another thing about Matt that I did on purpose. And it's not something that you would break up with someone for, but maybe you would, depending on your circumstances. But one of the things is he loves to say things like, I'm on your timeline, you take as much time as you need, and yada, yada, yada. And then he's like, okay, so let's go out now. Okay, so can I kiss you now? And you're like, dude, you said on my timeline, not your timeline. So let's see. This is Hannah getting after Matt for making a comment about David, which she is very sensitive still about. I know, right? Everyone thinks that David would be the creeper one, like, because, he doesn't necessarily live in the house full time, but he is there, and he's her boss, and he Well, he doesn't actually really come on to her. That's the thing. It's like he totally avoided that for the longest time because he knew that that was somewhat inappropriate. Kind of like, yeah, but from the outside looking in, that's exactly what it would look like, that he's being a creep. But let's see. Yeah, he took my hand. It was large and warm. Thank you for sharing that with me after she tells him about David. I would say he's a fool, but I don't think that's what you want to hear. Hannah, I'm a patient person. Take as long as you need to figure out what it is you really want. All I ask is that you let me in some small way prove to you I can be good for you. And then she's like, I hope I'm not making a mistake. And she really wasn't, because it was like last week, like I was talking about when Tiffany and I were talking about the different aspects of, you know, when you're 21 and you feel so adult, but at the same time, you haven't had a whole lot of life experience. And um, I know, right? Um, so I don't even remember where I was going with that statement, so I guess I'll just skip over it. Amy distracted me. Thanks, Amy. All right. I know. You think you know it all at that age. And I'm not saying that you can't be savvy or wise at that age either. I'm just saying that most of the time, kids that age think they're really grown up, and when they usually, a lot of times, don't necessarily think out their choices all the way. And um, that is actually kind of the material point with Hannah. One of her faults is that she very much is, for all her insecurities physically, she is very confident about herself and her decision making skills, which of course is proven not to be the most terribly wise, but hey, that's how life goes. We have to make mistakes in order to learn from them and not do them again. So let's see. Because honestly, she could have said, oh, that was what it was. Um, if she hadn't run into David later in the story, let's just take David entirely out of the equation, um, she probably could have been happy with Matt. She would have needed time to heal or come to the understanding that David uh, was probably not good for her and that Matt was mostly. And then she could have trained Matt to not be such a Mr. Helper. Oh, no, not at all. Not at all. What are you talking about? I plead the fifth on that one, Amy. She was saying, that's not based on a sister of mine at all. And I'm like, no. Mm-mm. Nope. Shut up. All right, so let's see. Amber's really excited that they're dating. Okay, yes, we need to address this section. You're going to be mad at me, Amy, and I'll tell you why here in a sec. As soon as I get this done, you're going to be really mad at me, actually. Okay, knocking at the door. Matt's there with a bunch of flowers. Got her some hydrangea. Um, he's really being really cheesy, saying, when I saw them, I thought of you, delicate, sweet, and smells wonderful. And of course, she's rolling her eyes in her head. Have you guessed what? Have you guessed what it is that I'm making you mad about? I give you one. I give you one solid guess as to what I did this last week that will piss you off about the story. Oh man. All right. Okay. I don't know. Oh, it's like your thingy.
But mine has like a knuckle thing.
Okay. So here he's being perfect boyfriend again, which is fine. This part is, I don't have a problem with him being perfect boyfriend in this case, where he sits down. She had laundry sitting on the couch that she was doing, and so he sat down to. Oh no, 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 no. Yeah, no. I'll explain in a minute. Um, yeah, he finishes folding the laundry for her and putting it in a room for her, which is so that part's nice. I mean, that's something you do when you care about somebody. That's not necessarily ableist, but let's see. Let's do this. Do you need me to get any pots and pans for you? No, right. Marry him the minute he asks you. Okay. No, Matt, I'm fine. Okay. Wait, is that from Funny Girl, that line? Marry him the minute he asks you? Or what is that from? Mm. Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay, now I remember. Okay, thank you. All right. Um, so Amy, I'm going to remind you that these people are not operating on the same values that we hold dear. Okay? And yes, she sleeps with Matt, so there you go.
But it's the sleep.
Oh dear.
Not
What?
you wanna you wanna lock it up.
No, because I'm streaming right now. Your nephew is such a nerd, by the way, Amy. All right, let's see. And no, I don't get into it is complete and utter closed doors, just so you know. Because I don't do that. I don't write that kind of stuff. Maybe some little kissing, makey, outy stuffy, but not, yeah. All right, let's see. Do do do. I know. Well, the reason I put it in there, and I'm not justifying, I'm just explaining, is that we do stupid stuff when we're hurting, and stupid stuff includes, but is not limited to, doing things that might lead the other person on a little bit because we don't even know what we want. And so then we try things to say, okay, so he is good looking. I am physically attracted to him. Kissing him wouldn't be horrible, but I'm still desperately in love with David. And so what would happen if I kissed him? And then her reaction to the kiss. Yeah, so like it says I put a hand to his face and put my lips to his. His mouth was warm and soft, and he pulled me into a hug. I leaned into the kiss, waiting for that moment when the butterflies flew and my heart tried to break free from my chest, but it wasn't there. Not like it had been with David. With Matt, the kiss was cozy, warm, and got my blood flowing. So for her, it wasn't meh. It's not the same, you know. Um, and then, but obviously, she goes, he released me and looked deep into my eyes. I've been wanting to do that for a while, he said. His eyes burned with passion. He pulled me into his lap and kissed me again. And so obviously it's different for Matt, though. He feels completely different about the kiss than she does. And that's the sad part. But he was so pretty. All right, let's see. Let's move along here. Okay, I could worry about that. I also realize now that we'd taken this step, that soon Matt would expect to move to the next level. I could worry about that when the time came, but if kissing Matt had shades of betrayal to David, I could only imagine what I would feel like making love to Matt. I wasn't ready for that. Of that I was sure. Already being gun-shy, jumping into a physical relationship with David so quickly, I wouldn't do that with Matt. Matt would have to have the patience of a saint before I felt ready. What are you talking about? I made out with no one. I honestly have no idea what you're talking about. That's so weird. Who are you talking about? All right. Oh, no, we never did. Ever. None. We never did. No, we did not. I promise. The only time my lips touched his was at a party game. That was it. There was no making out involved at all. Promise. Boy Scouts honor, whatever. But I promise that was the only time ever. No, I did not. I would so remember if I made out with him or anybody else for that matter before Jack. Because there was a time when it's so full of it. There was a time when Joe tried to go in for the kill and I hurried and did the whole hug side, boop boop boop, good night. Okay, think what you want, but I never made out with BJ. Never, 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 ever. I'll, I dare you to ask him. Actually, I dare you to ask him. I know you can find him because he's on my friend's Facebook list right now, and you can ask him. She's calling me a liar over here. Like, no, I never made out with anybody. No, I didn't. No, absolutely. 5,000%. The only time I ever kissed BJ was during a party game, and the kiss was like 3 seconds long in front of like 20 other people. It's like, that's not making out. Yeah, go ahead, do it. Ask him. He will tell you the same. And you better not suggest that I was telling you that I made out with, because I never did. Oh my God. Yeah, can you see how awkward that would be, Cliff? Like, she's going and telling me this kid that I knew 20 years ago. It's like, you made out with her, didn't you? And then that makes me sound like I'm sitting there telling people we made out and we never did. For reals. No, no, not a bit. Nope. Mm-mm. We did not. Not at the hot springs. Nope. Now, I I will tell you that trip was, oh my gosh. That trip was terribly uncomfortable because um, Peggy and pretty much everybody else was trying to get us together, I think. And so I drove down to Manti with him, like it was just us two in the car, and we drove down to Manti, went to the Manti pageant, and then we got started out so late going back that we ended up like finding this like ranch exit off of one of the small roads or whatever and camping out the night, and we happened to be with Anna and Peggy, so it was Peggy and Charlie and Anna and that other stupid kid, and so here we are, we're like two friends and we're surrounded by making out couples. Yeah, Jason Ehlers. And I'm like, here we are sitting there going, okay, this is really awkward. Because like we're not making out, but everybody else is. And because we didn't have, and that was the other thing too, and maybe that's where you misconstrued what I said. We had to sleep under the same blanket because that was all we had. But we had our backs to each other, and yeah, no, there was no, no. We weren't touching. Oh my gosh. You can go ahead and ask him, because unless he remembers something that he made up, you're so weird. Anyway, she's calling me a pervert, and I'm like, whatever. I was 23, 22. Holy crap. Mm-mm. Anyway, now we're at the birthday party. No, it wasn't. I made out with him, and not at all. And I dare you to send him a message asking, because he will tell you the same thing. All right. Enough of the arguing about who made out with whom. That we'll have to have a conversation about. Um, because that is a situation that I'm not willing to talk about on the air, but I will tell you it was not a makeout session either. But I will call you and talk to you about that other situation. Okay, you ask BJ, because it wasn't, nope, not me. And stop talking about making out in front of Steve. Okay, so all right. Okay. So now this is yeah, exactly. Um, so this is I put in another part because I was fleshing out. Matt really didn't have as big a part as he did in the original two edits. In this edit, I realized he really needed to have a bigger part. Part partially because partially because I went to that writers conference, and the gal at the writers conference was saying, you can't make this an easy decision for her. You need to make this a really, really hard decision for her, where there will be no easy answers to your dilemma. If you leave Matt for David, what are the risks of her doing that? Um, and what are the consequences of something like that? And originally, there really was no consequences other than maybe Amber getting mad and then breaking Matt's heart. But in the new edit that I have right now, Matt's asked her to marry him, and she hasn't said yes yet because after she saw David at the party, she was like, I cannot say yes to Matt unless I am absolutely positive that I have that either these feelings I have for David were just kind of, I'm remembering how we were together, but all I remember is the good stuff instead of remembering everything. And or if it's, uh, or if I see him again and the feeling isn't the same. So, so number one, she'll break Amber's heart because they're best friends now. Um, and they're doing everything together. I mean, they work at the same place. She lives at Amber's house. She's dating her brother. And so it's like all this stuff, it really will hurt Amber probably. Maybe not the most, but it will affect Amber pretty deeply. And then for Matt, he wants to marry her. And and in fact there's a scene where I wrote in the argument part of this situation where he is pissed. I mean, he is just angry because he doesn't understand. I love you. I'm free. I wasn't messing with your head. I wasn't lying to you about things in my life. I've been upfront and honest with you, and you're throwing all of this away for this other guy who did XYZ PDQ. And he's not wrong. And that's the thing that was kind of not fun to write about because that scene was actually kind of emotionally draining to write, but he's not wrong. All of those things he's saying is absolutely right. Except you have to feel that same way about the person um, for there has to be at least, if maybe not exactly the same kind of connection, you have to at least be somewhere within a range at bare minimum. Because if you aren't true to your feelings, then you can't ever give the person that you married enough of a chance to, you're not being true to that person basically. And so that's kind of like the big deal is like he's not happy. Oh yeah, because a lot of times, and in this particular situation particularly, this has nothing to do with logic, and that's kind of what Matt was saying to her as well. This has nothing to do with logic. If we're looking at it from a logical perspective, then yes, Matt is completely correct, and Hannah should forget about David and just ride off into the sunset with Matt. But we're not dealing with logic here. We're dealing with the heart and the spirit And don't worry, I don't believe in kindred spirit, or I mean in soulmates, because that's a bunch of crap. But I do believe that you can get along with somebody, that there are certain people that we just feel a really tight connection to, and there's more than one of them. So in this case, Hannah is trying to quantify her attachment to David without, and then, but she can't worry about Matt at that point until she figures out what it is she really feels about everybody. And so, um, yeah. Okay, tell me later about that. So let's see. This is the birthday party. Oh, and here's the other thing that was fun that I added in with these scenes is one of the things I realized that would be kind of funny to do is that when Marion and Dan, uh, Hannah's foster parents, meet David, they don't terribly like him very much. And it's not because of anything really, they're just really suspicious of him because he's 30, 31, and he's asked a girl 10 years his junior to marry him without even like he's never even met them. He certainly didn't ask Dan for her hand in marriage. So they have no idea who David is. And then they're coming in and they're like, "Oh, by the way, we're getting married." And they're like, "Excuse me, what?" Beyond the fact that David is really wealthy, they don't come from wealth. So anyway, that's a whole other section, but in the book, but they do like Matt, and they like Matt a lot. No, this is Jane Eyre. This is my Jane Eyre one. Persuasion is uh, the Marines one that I'm actually. They're having a thing called Camp NaNoWriMo in April and in July, and it's basically like you make a goal for yourself for the next 30 days and then you try to achieve that goal in writing. And so um, in April I'm going to start writing seriously. It the working title, and I'm not really hot on it still, but the working title for the persuasion one is called Imperfect Timing. So for now, I don't know if I can come up with a better title for that, but whatevs. But anyway, Dan and Marion love Matt. Matt is like what every parent wishes especially their girl child, to do to date. They want to. He's like Boy Scout, boy next door, good looking, and he's a doctor, and he's kind, and he's, all that stuff. And he saved her life, and that of course gives even more bonus points. All right, let's see. Um, let's see. I have links to I can give you. Well, he's not. Um, he's not. No. Mm-mm. I was about to say something really foot in my mouth, and I decided against it. Let's see. If you go to wattpad.com, so wattpad.com, and then look up Whitney Wright's book, singular, you will find my stuff. I could link it to you, but I can't from my computer. I'd have to sit there and be on my phone like, which is kind of awkward. But that has only got Sweetwater and Ophelia on it. So, and Ophelia's in process right now. I think I'm on chapter 10. This coming Friday, so 2 days from now, I'll be releasing chapter 10 of Ophelia. And it's getting sort of juicy because, well, it's not, I'm writing the juicier parts now. Right now in Ophelia, we're still sort of at we are discovering we really like each other and that we're really compatible, and we haven't really addressed her problems yet. But we will. It will get there. Just saying. All right. So in this scene, the point of this scene, the birthday. All right, that would be good. Because I'm actually really, really tempted. I've had such an overwhelmingly, I put up, so we're in what? March? So August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. So it's been online for 7 months. Okay. I finished it back in January. So I finished Sweetwater in January. It's been only on Wattpad for 7 months, and it has over 7,000 reads. What that means is that any part of that book has been looked at 7,000 times since August. And that's actually really good. It's not like the most fab thing ever, but it is actually really good. Most people, I've been chatting with people on Wattpad, and a lot of the consensus is that you do not get that many reads generally that quickly. So that's like, yay! And so kind of what I've been thinking, and I haven't made that decision yet, kind of what I've been thinking is that maybe what I should do instead is pull Sweetwater and Ophelia off Wattpad and self-publish them. But I haven't made that decision yet. Because I kind of think, like, especially when I was at that writers conference, I was thinking, you know what it would be sort of like having an online portfolio, like your art portfolio, where you can say, here's the book I want to publish. By the way, if you want to read something that I wrote so you can see my work and what my work looks like, then go here and read it. So I should. Because that was the other thing too, when I went to this writers conference and people were like, well, how do you know if I should self-publish or if I should go the traditional route? And the consensus was that if you are writing romance at all, self-publish, because it sells like nobody's business. It just sells like hotcakes. It's the top genre on Amazon, like since it began, basically. And so it's just a matter of you getting the word out that your book is out there. So a lot of the marketing you need to, but eventually you'll get people buying it. The other thing is if you write children's books, so picture books, YA, young adult series books, that's when you want to go the traditional route, because the agents and the what's it called? The publishers can actually get the books into the elementary schools. And those are the people that are buying up. That's how a lot of kids find the books that they then they go on to buy on their own. You know, teacher had it, so then I read it and I liked it, and so I'm going to go buy it for myself, kind of thing. But as a self-published author, you really wouldn't have the ability to get that stuff into the schools on your own unless you're like making appointments with each of the principals, which, what a mess. I would hate to do that. So let's see. What am I doing? Okay. Yeah, I added this part in not only to kind of show you what Matt and, um, yeah, exactly. Here's my book. Um, and I'll be honest, I doubt very many principals actually read the books the kids read. You never know. It's possible they do, but I doubt it. They're admins. They don't do that sort of thing. All right, so the point of this one, this section was to show what a relationship between Hannah and Matt would look like. Because now that they've been dating for about a couple of months, she's kind of come full circle now. Um, and this was also another place that Amy really, one of the things that I really need to fix with Sweetwater. Um, yeah, exactly. One of the things Amy Jo suggested that I fix in Sweetwater particularly is that for me, when I say she got in the pool, I know exactly what I'm talking about. But other people who have never been around someone who's been, like, say, had a spinal cord injury, they have no idea what that means. Because if you're an able-bodied person, you would just, walk over to the edge of the pool and jump in. But obviously, I'm not going to roll over to the edge of the pool and me and my wheelchair go flying into the water. That's not how that works. And so she was encouraging me to put a little more description on what exactly getting into the pool for a person in a wheelchair actually means. Another thing that I wanted to add to that was that sometimes I'm in my head too much. And so, um, yeah, gosh. Um, and I may have actually done that once on a dare, but I don't wear a seatbelt. So my chair just sunk to the bottom and I just swam away, but that's because I was stupid. Oh my gosh. But I also wanted to show that um, this scene kind of is my little treatise on why I would never date a man that was beautiful. even even if he was like totally 5,000%, head over heels in love with me, I just wouldn't do it because, um, let's see, this sentence, it says, Matt, you have to see it from my point of view. I'm the girl in the wheelchair. I know that doesn't mean much to you. You're beautiful. But for me, it meant that I was never more than a friend to anyone. Then the one time I felt like I had found someone to look past the metal bits to the girl sitting there, he treated me worse than anyone would treat a friend. He made me feel small and unimportant, and I'm just having a hard time convincing myself that you're for real. That gets to the heart of it a lot. Because, you know, one of the big themes is that being a person with a disability, we are like completely aware that we don't look like everybody. We don't look like the girls in the magazines. We don't even look like the girls that are standing next to us, you know, win, loser, beautiful, smart, or whatever. And that a guy generally goes for looks first. Not saying that to like be mean or anything, just saying that's the dude's initial thing is to look at the physical first, and then a lot of guys will definitely judge whether they like a girl or not based on her personality. Yeah, exactly. And so like another thing about dating a beautiful person is that you're constantly having other girls or guys constantly checking out your boyfriend, husband, whatever. And if you're already not like on the same level as beauty kind of thing, that can be kind of nerve-wracking constantly. So let's see. Oh, and then one other thing, somebody had criticized me because they said that they didn't feel like nice. Amy says that when I was dating her ex-fiance Luke, a girl actually said to me, "You're dating him?" Oh my gosh, that's terrible. That is terrible. Um, ugh. Oh, that I was. They felt that it was unbelievable that that two men, one of a higher income status and a doctor, would be interested in a girl in a wheelchair. And I'm like, you're probably right, but this is my story, damn it. Um, she can date whoever she wants, and I can make her date whoever she wants. And you never know because there are people in this world that don't care about that kind of stuff. And so that's why I put this little paragraph in here where it says, um, he goes, so his response to what she just said was, the tender look in his eyes made my, like, what in the world? My heart do a flip. I am for real, and you can count on the fact that the wheelchair is just part of the whole package as far as I'm concerned. It's neither more important nor irrelevant as any other part of you. I didn't know what to say to that. It was obviously what I wanted to hear from him, and he was very close to convincing me he spoke the truth. What sort of cosmic lottery had I won that I had two men who loved me for me when all the rest of them had just overlooked me? And so that was my response to that is like, it could happen. Probably wouldn't, but it could. Well, no, a doctor probably wouldn't want to marry somebody based on her health or her medical conditions because he's already dealing with that at work. He doesn't want to have to deal with that at home. Not saying a doctor couldn't marry a girl in a wheelchair or a guy in a wheelchair or whatever. I'm just saying that I don't think he would consider that a bonus. Like the psychologist or the therapist marrying the guy with schizophrenia. It's like probably not. Let's see. Are you saying he's more understanding because he's the doctor? Is that what you're trying to say? Do do do. All right. All right. That's what she was saying. She was saying that because Matt is a doctor, that he would be more likely to be understanding of her paraplegia than, say, the average dude. Can't disagree with that. Again, as unlikely as everything else in my story. All right. I did it again. Dang it. Select all. Put that puppy up to 18. All right. All right. The reason that one section was highlighted is because down here at the bottom, I have to figure out how to reword all of that because I don't know. We'll take a vote. All right. Night, Amy. Um, so Matt, they wake up the next morning and she says to him, "You're too good to be true, Matt. You're too good to me." And he rested his hand on the side of my face and made me look at him. "No, I'm not," he said, kissing me softly. "I'm just me, and a me that is very much in love with you." So that's kind of like the first time he's actually said the big L word, but that was not originally how it was supposed to go, because originally this down here was he's on the phone with her, asking her to go to a play with him, and the way it was supposed to work was she says, "You know, you don't have to make up anything of the kind," because he was saying he felt bad that he had to work so much that week. um, you're my knight in shining you're my knight in shining scrubs off to save the day. And then his response to that was, "I love you." And then her response to that was, I almost tripped on the words coming out of my mouth. It wasn't something we had really said before, and it seemed awkward saying to him. Well, maybe that will actually work. Because he wasn't saying, "I love you," and expecting her to say it back. He was making the comment that he felt like he was in love with her. So I guess that would still work. Yeah, that probably would. Okay. Alright, so I almost tripped on the words coming out of my mouth. It wasn't something we'd really said before, and it seemed awkward saying to him, "I love you too." And that was the point of all of this was to show that when David and she finally said that to each other, the "I love you," there was no hesitation on her part for her saying it, which is another bad sign. Because you don't want to be doubtful in saying "I love you" to someone, or it's awkward, shall I say, awkward to be saying that to someone and then they're not ready to say it back. It's awkward. Just saying. All right, let's see. Doo-doo-doo. Um, so let's see. Did I love Matt? So she's arguing with herself now about the love bit. Um, did I love Matt? I liked him a lot. He was fun to be around. He was amazing to me in bed. He was romantic and loving, but what I felt for him felt pale in comparison for the searing heat I had felt for David. It was funny. Put the two men together and most people would wonder what I was thinking. David wasn't nearly as good looking. He didn't have the physique or the height. David could be brusque, moody, and demanding, but he could also be so tender, loving, and he was enthusiastic to make me happy as well. That was to say nothing of his dry humor and sharp intellect. So for me, there was no comparison. No one better over the other, just different. So maybe that was the thing about Matt. I could say I loved him without being insincere because what I felt for him was different than what I had felt for David. I was nearing the back of my closet when I noticed a couple of boxes that had been shoved to the very back. I honestly thought I had unpacked everything months ago. I just about fell out of my chair trying to pull them out, which has happened to me on multiple occasions. You're like reaching over to get something and then you're like, I'm falling. Okay. And the reason I'm reading this aloud is because there's actually a part that I need to add in here. So let's see. The first box was books and pictures. I looked at the already heaving shelves of my bookcase. Looks like I'll need another one of those, I thought, smiling. I read over some of the titles, making notes of which ones I wanted to try and read again. Fix that. I flipped through the page. Let's see, I had a lot more free time not being a governess. I looked through the pictures in my high school and college yearbooks. I flipped through the pages. I came across a picture of Kayla, me, and a bunch of our other friends, all dressed up like princesses from Enchanted. Most of them had quinceanera-style ballroom gowns, dripping in rhinestones and sequins. My more fiscally practical costume of Ariel sort of stuck out to the side. Maybe David would have been better off with Kayla. She knew how to live in his world, though I wasn't quite sure how happy she would make him. And then we're adding in here the last picture frame. I pulled out and noticed it was not one. The last picture frame was not one that I recognized. I pulled it out of the box and gasped. Someone, most likely David, had framed the letter from the man who had killed my family. Because there, I don't know if you remember or not, but towards the beginning of the novel, she tells David that while she was in like that transitional period between junior high and high school, she was having a hard time because, you know, those fun little things about being different from everybody else, and you're very, very aware of how different you are from everybody else. And so she was really angry at Marion and Dan because what do we do when we love someone? We take out our anger on them, right? Especially now that I've got teenagers, they love doing that. I'm the bad guy for everything. But anyway, so Marion had at some point in the past received a letter from the man who'd been driving the car that had crashed into Hannah's family. And so he was responsible for the accident because he was high on oxycodone at the time. He had been a military vet who had gotten hooked on the opioids and was driving when he crashed. And so then the backstory is that after the accident, he came out of it perfectly fine with like a bunch of scratches and stuff. Was about it. And in his kind of stupor, he had wandered over to the other car and found Hannah hanging like in this really awkward position out of her booster seat in the car, crying for her mother. And that image of this little girl who's bloodied and banged up and sitting at a weird angle, really, like, it was sort of like the big, slap across the face for him that he needed to realize that he had a serious problem. And so what ended up happening is he didn't fight any charges. He went straight to a lawyer and said, I don't want to fight this. I deserve everything I'm going to get. And so when he got the lawyer, he got sentenced. He didn't fight the sentence. He didn't fight being in jail. And in fact, he wrote Hannah saying that he had taken the time in jail to get clean, and he was trying to turn his life around as sort of like a penance for killing her family. And so this is the letter that he had written telling her all of that stuff. Now, I don't know if you knew this or not. The prison system, you can write letters to people, but you have, like, I don't know if it's a rule necessarily or whatever, but you have no obligation to respond to any letter received by an inmate. And on top of that, anyway, all of your mail is screened anyway. So he didn't want to hear back from her. He just wanted to express his remorse and what he was planning on doing. And so that was the letter that Marion gave Hannah at that point, to make her realize that it doesn't matter. You can be mad at him. That's okay, because he did something that was horrible. He even knew that, and so that's why she gave her the letters. He understood that he did something horrible, and he was trying to do the best he could to make up for that horribleness, even though he knew that was something he would never be able to truly recompense for her. But that it didn't matter, because as much hate as you hold in your heart for someone, it subtracts from your own ability to live life to the fullest, because you're expending so much energy on hate. Now, I'm not judging anybody in their grief process, because I'm not sitting there preaching that you need to forgive everybody and move on with your life, because that's not the way it works. Everyone is different. Everyone has different levels of hurt and different levels of grieving. And so what I am saying is that, when, as evidenced by people in my own life that I know, that when they hold on to grudges, when they hold on to being angry at people, when they don't allow people to ask for forgiveness, the only person that suffers is them. And so, that anger and that hate and that bitterness expends way more energy than feeling happy or feeling like you can forgive somebody or forgive yourself. So anyway, that's all I'm saying. And so what happened is, she showed that letter to David, and that actually touched David quite a bit. It was sort of like a perfect storm between his first wife and his situation with her, and then here's living proof of the horrible things that can happen when someone makes those kinds of decisions that affect and impair their judgment. But yet she is not angry and bitter, whereas he is. And so that's kind of another reason their bond is so strong, is because she was doing something he didn't think was possible, because he couldn't do it. Then he realized, yeah, I can let go of my anger of my first wife, even though she screwed my life up really bad, because Hannah's entire family was lost, and she's still able to forgive this guy. So when Hannah runs out the door, I mean, it's not like she packed up her stuff and drove off into the night. She was out of her mind with grief, and so she didn't take anything with her other than her purse. So this letter, all of her clothes, all of her bathroom toiletries were all left at David's house. And so when he found that letter, he knew that that was really important to her. And so he had it framed so that it wouldn't get ruined, and as kind of a memento of, this is, this person wanted to make his life better because of the horrible tragedy. And so then that's why this is an important point in the story, is that it's also, what I was trying to do with this scene was also one thing that could prove to Hannah that David was really using his brain at that point. Rather than being a selfish schmuck and doing all these things that were hurtful to Hannah, he was um, he was trying to let her know in an indirect way that he saw what he had done, and he was doing little things to kind of say, "I'm sorry for being an asshole." Really, is what was going on. And so there's that part where, so we're ramping up the emotional charge in this particular scene. So the last picture frame was not the one was not one that I recognized. I pulled out the box and gasped. Someone, most likely David, had framed the letter from the man who had killed my family. I blinked back my tears. It touched me that he would think to do this, remembering how important this letter was to me. Let's see. Um, I rolled backwards and placed the letter frame on my nightstand until I could find a place to put it. So she's going to bring that out. It is a reminder of David in a way, but it's not, because it's not his, it's hers. So she's going to pull that out so that she can hang it up on her wall as a reminder to herself. Originally, I actually had the plan of David finding the letter and then hanging it up in the lobby of the rehab center that he opens, but I figured he probably wouldn't do that, because that would almost be like stealing her letter, and that was something that was personal to her, and maybe she didn't want everyone who walked through that rehab center to read it necessarily, even though it would be a nice reminder to the people coming into the center that there was somebody out there that was willing to make the change to make their lives better. But again, this is her information, her personal business, and he wouldn't have ever done something like that. So let's see. The other box contained a lot of things I had in my bedroom and bathroom: lotions, perfume, toothpaste, deodorant, and knickknacks. As I was digging through the bottom, I noticed a folded black gift bag stuck at the derp, derp, derp. As I was, whoops, what did I do? Okay, as I was digging, I noticed a folded black gift bag stuck at the bottom. I pulled it out and opened it. Inside, there was a light blue box with a large white and satin bow on top. I held my breath. I pulled out the box, and sure enough, it was a Tiffany's box. The bow looked newly tied, and just so you know, the reason it's Tiffany's is we actually do have a Tiffany's here in Salt Lake. So he had easy access to a Tiffany's. He didn't have to go all the way to New York to get it. The bow looked newly tied. I hesitated for a moment. I wasn't sure I wanted to open the box. All I would find would be that gaudy and expensive ring David had gotten me. Gotten. I could spell. But curiosity got the better of me. I was seized with the need to look at the ring one more time, no matter how much I hated it. I pulled the satin ribbon and took the top of the box off. I sat there for the longest time just staring at the ring inside. It was not the original ring David had gotten me. Ugh, I hate that. Ring. David had given me. It was a small half-carat emerald-cut diamond surrounded by teeny diamonds on a simple platinum band. It was beautiful. My chest heaved in and out as I realized what David had done. He had taken back the other ring and had gotten me the one that he knew I would love. It's like, it's a little late to be figuring this stuff out after she left you, dude. And that's the other thing about David that he wasn't very smart about is if you're going to marry somebody, you might want to, know what they like and don't like. Just a little. Just saying. I started putting all the things away from the box and then took the Tiffany's box and shoved it as far back in my shoe shelf as possible. I didn't want to see it and I didn't want to think about it. I love it when I get to write what I would consider the unreliable narrator, because if she really didn't want to see it, she would have put it back in the box. You see what I did there? Alright. Okay, we're not going to do that scene because that's appropriate. I sat looking out of the sliding doors of the condo's patio, watching the snow falling lightly out of the sky. It wasn't sticking yet, but made the sidewalks and roads glossy in the dim parking lot lights. I waited for Matt. He said he'd pick me up and we were going out somewhere. On a night like tonight, I wished we weren't going anywhere. I was tired, and I didn't like driving on the snowy roads at night. Maybe I could convince Matt to stay in now that Amber spent more time at Clinton's than she did here. Greet him at the door naked, seducing him into spending the evening in my room? I wasn't really in the mood for that either. Ever since seeing David on TV all those weeks ago, I had fallen into a depression that Matt had tried his hardest to fix. But his version of fixing it was to get me out of the condo as much as possible. I didn't want to leave the condo. I wanted to go to work, come home, eat, watch TV until I fell asleep, and then do it all over again the next day. At first, I had no idea what was wrong with me. I should be the happiest I'd ever been. I had a gorgeous and loving boyfriend. I had a job where I got to use my skills every day. I had a family that loved me and supported me, but it wasn't enough. Seeing David on TV had shown me that there was a huge piece of me missing. It was trapped up in that big mansion on the dark mountain. For some reason, fate or destiny or whatever it is you want to call it wasn't letting me forget. Every time I felt like I had come to some kind of settlement of my feelings for Matt and for David, something would pop up to remind me that out there somewhere was the person holding my heart prisoner. Like a telltale heart beating from the back of my closet, David's ring sat. I'd never told Matt about the ring. Most likely he would have sent it back to David's special delivery. But I didn't want to do that, not yet. I didn't want to get rid of one of the last pieces of David I had left that I allowed myself to have. So I sat staring into the darkness, like looking into David's dark eyes, and waited. A knock came at the door, and I shook myself out of my trance and answered it. It was Matt, covered in snowflakes. He scooped me up out of my wheelchair and hugged me to him, kissing me breathless before letting me down. "Are you ready to go?" he asked. "Do we really need to go out tonight?" I said, turning away and looking back towards the sliding doors. "No, we don't need to. But I thought you might like a change of scenery than these four walls," he said. "I like to stay in," I said. "Please, I'll even make dinner." "Okay, if that's what you want," he said, taking his coat and gloves off. "So what have you and Amber been doing now that you're on winter break?" he said, plopping himself down in the armchair. "I haven't seen much of Amber lately," I said, smiling at him. "She's been too busy with Clinton." "Interesting," he said, scratching his chin. "I wonder if I'm about to get a new brother." "You might," I said. I pulled out some cookware and started a white sauce with mushrooms. "I hope you don't mind pork chops. It's all I have unfrozen." "That sounds delicious," he said, "and more especially since you made it." Meh. And that line was cheesy on purpose. I continued in the kitchen until dinner was done and peeked my head around the fridge to see Matt fast asleep in the armchair. He seemed to be burning the candle at both ends of the stick nowadays, trying to keep me happy and working so many odd hours. I went over to him and leaned his head towards me so I could kiss him awake. He smiled at me with drowsy eyes. "I love waking up this way," he said. I patted him on his cheek. "Dinner's ready," I said, and I managed not to burn it. I took his hand and pulled him over to the kitchen table. We ate in silence for the most part, but every once in a while I would catch him staring at me. There was a soft look to his eyes, but also worry behind them as well. He picked up our plates and washed them before sitting down with me on the couch. "Can we talk?" he said. "Sure," I said, trying to hide my apprehension. "You know I love you," he said, making me look at him. "I'm worried about you, though. You've been off lately, and I can't quite put my finger on what it is." "Matt, I'm fine," I said, looking away. "Things have been a little stressful at work lately, but it's nothing I can't handle." He examined me in silence for a while. "Are you sure that's it?" "Yes," I said. "What's got you so concerned?" "Well, you've pulled away from me a little," he said slowly, as if trying to find the right words. "Pulled away from you?" "Yes, physically and emotionally a little." "You think that there's something wrong with me because we don't have sex as often?" "No, no, not that precisely. It's like instead of cuddling, you'll just roll over and go to sleep, or you'll cut our conversation short like I'm bothering you." "Holy shit, Matt," I said. "Talk about needy. You realize that being together isn't always going to be rainbows and butterflies, that maybe I don't always feel like being intimate with you at the same time you do, or that if I get pregnant and I have to go on bed rest and I can't have sex for all the night for all the 9 months, what are you going to do then?" "Calm down," he said. "I'm not suggesting—" "Don't tell me to calm down." "Yes, gentlemen, don't tell your woman friend to calm down, because that will piss her off even more." What? As I tried to get back in my chair as quickly as possible, which of course only made the process more awkward and slow. "You don't get to, you don't get to tell me what to do. I am doing the best I can. I don't need you pressuring me all the time. Why isn't what we have enough for you?" Hannah, I really don't know what you're talking about. When have I ever pressured you to stop? Just stop. I know I'm not perfect, and I don't always know what you need from me. I'm trying, but you just have to accept the fact that we're not always on the same page about everything. But if that's not something you can handle, then you might as well leave just leave now. Because if I'm not good enough for you, if I don't always do it the way you want me to, then too bad. I fled to my bedroom and slammed my door with such force it's amazing it didn't come off its hinges. I put my head down in my arms and cried into my comforter. Anger and guilt flooded out of me. I wasn't sure what had just come out of my mouth, but if Matt hadn't been convinced that I was crazy before, he surely was now. A soft tap came at the door. Go away, I yelled. Hannah, please, let me come in, he said. I continued to cry until I felt a warm pair of arms around me. Matt picked me up and held me until I had calmed down. I'm not sure what happened out there, he said, smoothing back the hair from my wet face. All I know is I didn't come here tonight to fight. You are enough for me, Hannah. I've been wanting to prove it all night, but I won't lie and say that everything is perfect. It's not. I don't know why you flew off the handle, but it tells me there is something wrong. But I won't know how to help you if you don't tell me what it is. And here's another lie. Lie! I don't know what it is.
Oh no, she knows exactly.
Oh, she knows exactly what it is. I said, tucking my face into his shoulder. I don't know why I feel the way I'm feeling. I'll tell you how I'm feeling, he said finally. I love you. I want to wake up every morning next to you and see your face. I want to do things with you, take you places, be there for you when you need me, and maybe someday I'll be the father of your children. I want all that with you. But why? I said. Why me? What can I possibly do for you but hold you back, need to be taken care of and put up with? You could have any woman on this planet. They would fall to their knees begging you to adore them, but you picked me. I just don't understand. You want me to tell you? He said. I nodded. I have no idea either. I have no idea why you, of all the people in the world, ended up on my operating table almost a year ago. I don't know why I was the lucky one to save your life and give you the chance to do all the things in the world that you want to do with it. I don't know why someone as beautiful, funny, and especially smart is choosing to love me. All I'm asking you to do is share it all with me. Please, Hannah, marry me.
Oof. Was that the word? Did he just propose?
Yep. Hey, Isaac. I'm still streaming. Shush.
Oh.
He reached down in his pant pocket and pulled out a black velvet box and put it in my hand. You came over tonight to propose? I asked, incredulous. Well, yes, I had a slightly different plan in mind, but this will do because it doesn't matter where, as long as you say yes, he said. I opened the box and let's see. I opened it, and inside was a small princess cut diamond solitaire. And we need to get rid of that. I hope you like it, he said. I knew you wouldn't want anything that could cut people as you rolled by. I put my hand over my mouth as I stared at the ring. I had no idea what to say. There was a huge part of me that wanted to say yes immediately. Then I could finally put to rest all the doubts I had about Matt. Oh, I know what's going on. I probably wrote this at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
She's doubting herself, and she's doubting what he was saying.
No, the sentence reads, then I could finally put to rest all the doubts I had about Matt to rest.
Yeah, you're probably sleep deprived.
Yep.
My dear sleep deprived mother, go to bed, you know?
Yeah. Okay, then I could finally put all the doubts I had about Matt to rest. Much better.
No, David. You should put David there.
I knew I could be happy with him. He would make sure that every day of his life he would work towards making me happy like he had for these last 8 months. But deep in my heart, deep, deep down, I knew that there would always be a piece of my heart Matt could never have, that he could never earn. And that was the part of me that made me look into Matt's eyes and tell him, I love you, Matt. I really need some time to think about it. He stabbed my heart with the look of disappointment he gave me. He put his hand over mine and the box. Think about it. I want you to be 100% sure this is what you want. And like I told you before, I will give you the time you need. Keep the box with you until you decide, then either wear it or give it back. Which, of course, lies. He doesn't want it back. He wants her to wear it. I put my arms around his neck and hugged him. It was not how he had planned the night to go at all, I was sure. First me flying into a rage and then telling him not yet. But as soon as I had said those words, I felt at peace. He would give me the time, and now I needed to decide what to do with it. Aha! All right. That, I think, is going to be it for the evening. What are we looking at time-wise? I can't tell. Oh well, it doesn't matter. But anyway, so I'll be back again next Wednesday because I don't think there's anything super important going on. So I'll be back next Wednesday with some more. Hopefully by next Wednesday I'll have moved on to another book. I'm really hoping to get the last of this done. It's been crazy because first I had to fix it so Matt was more involved in the story, and then Matt ended up with perfect boyfriend syndrome. And then I had to go back and flesh out David a little bit more, give a little bit more information about Hannah and David together so that I could justify having Hannah pick David at least somewhat, because you're not going to pick someone that straight up played with your head. All right, cool beans. So anyway, we'll see you next Wednesday.